Today I want to discuss with you how children grow up with inward conflicting become giants in their life. Then adults also are facing up to these giants. So when they don't like their failure, they fear what they are hearing, put downs, they grow a surrogate personality, a different personality. You might call it a kind of imposter syndrome. That means they have grown up a personality to cope with the troubles that they feel they are facing, challenges, intimidation. They are losing their real identity. So it's another giant inside them that they have grown up. Without growing up themselves, they are covering up and coping with the problem with this personality that they have, a numbed personality, not responding, shying away, shutting up. But they can cope because this facade, this other personality they put forward. It may be an angry personality, it may be an all-knowing personality, but the real person is not growing. They may grow up avoiding conflict because when they got conflict too much at home between father and mother, or they were called ugly duckling and it attacked them. Social anxiety, perfectionism, especially when someone has grown up without a dad, he begins to cope with every problem anyhow, somehow, how he knows. Then he thinks he has done very well because there was no dad to give him measurement and an assessment. He had to do it anyway and he had to do best as he knew how, and he thinks therefore he is the best. So he can criticize others, he can feel easily offended and defending himself even when there is no fight on. Because when dad is there, he teaches how to take up challenges, adjust, next step, next stretch. In this scenario, he had to do everything. Then they can have low self-esteem, masquerading as a forceful personality. That is because before they get chipped off, they want to put up a front. Because of fear of rejection, they may do all to please and be accepting, somehow placating, overperforming or trying to perform everything right. We know nobody can put everything right. Now you may recognize these symptoms, though you are a grown-up. At the same time, I want this to be a help to parents see the issues that their children are going through. As for Sri Lanka, 30% of psychiatric consultations are now for kids under the age of 20. So you can see kids are facing a lot of conflict. Then they can have a sense of emptiness. I don't know what I do. I am being forced to do this or do that, because parents may convey to them perform or perish, swim or sink kind of attitude. Then they may feel they are not important at all. Their choices are not consulted. So in my suggestions, in my diagnosis, there are remedies suggested, the way to go forward. So don't take this as a criticism. From a doctor's point of view, I am Dr. Lalith Mendis, Director, Colombo Empathic Learning Center. I am doing since many parents come for consultation. Initially they came because of digital screen addictions, then how their personalities have developed out of it, or because of other kind of conflict. Then some children are hyper independent because they wanted to do it their way, where they wanted to get out of control. And when children want to do it their way, they get into trouble also. They can feel as if their identity and value was not there, everything was put on them to show. Then they can feel like an imposter because they had to grow a strong personality. Struggle with self-doubt, difficulty asserting their needs, therefore they easily agree, and in a world they are so digitized, romance has got dead, because boys may not making the sacrifice of lifelong commitment. They may have a fling, with the same sex or someone else without counting the cost of sexual purity. So we have to appeal to parents to please keep your children safe in sexual purity, because when they lose sexual innocence, a lot of guilt comes. They undervalue themselves. They feel abused. These are biblical values, but these are ingrained human values. If you violate how God has designed us, we violate ourselves. So this is not put on by Christian culture. They deeply ingrained in the human being what is valuable inside them, and deformed sex before time, are all things that degrade themselves and they feel devalued. And they can be easily abused because they lost value in the first place. Then struggle to accept praise because they think they are not worthy. Difficult voicing their opinion, so please give time for children to make their opinion known. Don't jump on them. They sometimes like to argue. Allow them a little argument and show them the right way. Then if parents don't allow that, they seek external validation from others. So about their body, about their skin color, about the shape of their organs, lips, face, nose, eyelashes, eyebrows, everything they try to go Snapchat dysmorphia, and they in actual life might try to change their shape. They might find it hard to express themselves, or they may adopt completely people-pleasing behaviors somehow to be accepted, difficulty in expressing emotions, thinking it is weakness, worrying about upsetting others, constantly striving to gain approval, appreciation somehow. Then they may have difficulty in trusting because parents had not bonded, developed trust in them. Then they may not know how to set healthy boundaries, so we have to help them in all this. Then I want to add the story of David. He was raised up as the 8th son of a family. Father didn't have time, father was aging, and his 7 older brothers were from another woman, the proper woman, and David's mother was that other woman. So his birth was shrouded in that kind of secrecy and so on. He came to be 17 years old, but his best friend was God. He learned about him and he began to worship. He had made himself a harp, and he had a long story and a long history of how God has helped him, because God is the father of the orphan. Not that David was orphan, just that his father didn't think much of him. So even when Samuel the prophet came to anoint the next king of the country, father brought 7 of his great sons who were already in the king's army. Jesse, the great man, did not think David would fit the post. But then God has seen him and God had chosen David. So the first voice that spoke to David was his father's not understanding David's greatness, but David understood his greatness by the great kindness of the Lord. So when father told him to take the food for his brothers, just as a messenger, where brothers were the great soldiers, brothers were in the king's army, and brothers were the ones who were going to get fame for father. But David, in humility, went and did that, because when we are humble, we may be getting onto a doorknob, little doorknob, that opens a great door for our life adventure and life forward. That's what happened to David. The second voice David heard was from the soldiers at the war front. They were listening to Goliath for 40 days, and Goliath was cursing and shouting insults at the nation of Israel. And the Israeli soldiers were thoroughly frightened, so was the king. King was trembling. And they told about the greatness of this Goliath, and David said, his inner voice spoke. He had a vision of victory. He said, what will the king give the man who puts down this Goliath? The inner voice spoke. David's inner voice spoke. What is your inner voice? Because our outcome is decided by the voice of victory we have, or the defeat we have claimed for ourselves, even before the battle is on. So giants, some are outside, some are inside. So we need to face them all. And David was on the way to face the giant. The third conversation he had was with his own brother Eliab. And Eliab said, "Where are you? Why did you come here? You naughty fellow, you insolent fellow, you left the sheep and came here. All your life you will be only a watcher of sheep in the backwoods of Bethlehem. Why have you come here?" That's the kind of put down David heard from his 7 brothers at home. But David had a God story. David had a God history inside him. And he just turned his back to his brother's insult. He didn't go to get involved. So next lesson we learn is save your stones for the real giants. Don't fight your brother. He's not the enemy. He's talking the language of the enemy of put down. Don't fight your brother. Because people fight with church, people fight with minister, people fight with family members. But know the enemy and preserve your energy to fight the enemy at the right platform, at the right time, in the God-given space. Then the fourth conversation he had was with King Saul himself. And he was taken before the king. And David said, "Allow me to represent you and the nation and put down this Goliath." Then the king was trembling with the voice of Goliath he had been hearing for 40 days. And king began to tell David the greatness, what a warrior Goliath was. The king was soaked in that fear. But David said, "Let me go." Then the king offered him weapons. But David had already fashioned his weapons. So don't go to fight God's war with some other weapon. God has already equipped you in the inside. David knew that. David had a long history with God. David had God's story. So David told King Saul, when a bear came to kill the father's sheep, I killed the bear. When the lion came to kill the father's sheep, I killed the lion. So let me go with my weapons. And then David ran towards Goliath, and his final conversation was with Goliath. And David said, "Goliath, you come to me in the name of your gods and with the spear and the sword. But I come to you in the name of my God." And he slung just one stone. He had 5, but he had slung just one stone from his slingshot, which he has practiced much in God's presence. And the slingshot and the stone went, not only the stone, name of God went with that stone, and Goliath fell. What are the giants you are facing today? Past fears, failures, defeats speaking to you, or you're building an image that really is not you. That's where the imposter syndrome comes. You are trying to build something that is really not you, when God wants to build who really you are. Shall we get on to that? Many people face this giant that they have put up like a little cardboard hero so that they can face challenges, intimidation. But God wants to grow you. Otherwise, even after aging, we throw tantrums like a child. When we feel we were not accepted, we didn't get the space we should have got, we didn't get the platform or the chair we should have got, because all those dealings are with men. But let's deal with God. Let us all develop a God story with God, a God conversation with God, and a God history with God. Then no giant can threaten us, and there will always be a step up and a step forward in God's plan for us. One more example I want to quote from Joseph, when Genesis chapter 49 verse 24 says, Joseph always grew a branch that will go up over the wall. When his brothers opposed him, when he landed in prison because of Potiphar's wife, he still grew a branch over the wall, grew a branch over the obstruction, and from prison he went to palace. So this is how Joseph overcame obstructions. Also, archers took aim at him. If you are God's man, there will be archers who will try to take aim at you and shoot arrows. Don't fight the archers their way. Don't fight the arrows. And it is said, Joseph took God's bow. It was strong in his arm, and he shot his life seasons into God's destiny and God's highest. Let's use our bow for our seasons of life to keep God target. God bless you. I'm Dr. Lalith Mendis. If you want any more clips of this nature of science and reason and spirituality, or on my normal topic, screen brain balance, please send me a WhatsApp to +94 74 211 5011. If you want a consultation for your kids about the digital problem or on any other character issue, please give a telephone call to 077 151 2801. Let's meet again with another broadcast tomorrow. Thank you.